I think it's finally winding down. I'm not one for filler episodes, and last night's show really delivered 2 solid chunks of it. Meri and her 2 friends, who seem like lovely people, but seriously, we've already heard the same Kody drama a million times. At this point, not even Jesus himself could make sense of it. It just feels like each episode is getting thinner, week by week. Can we please get back to the real stuff? The actual meat of the story. Anyone else feel that way? Honestly, the show's always been a bit slow-paced, but do you remember when the biggest issue of the season was whether Meri would be in the or outside the trees? Hilarious, but now, yeah, it's obvious we're nearing the end. There's practically no connection left between the main cast. The only 2 still in the same state, Christine and Meri in Utah, are 5 hours apart and don't even talk. Janelle's off in North Carolina now. The whole premise of the show is just poof, gone. Although, I would love to see Kody's face when he finds out Christine filed for child support, and when the rest of them realize that Robyn and Kody just moved into a $2 million house. That's gonna be something to watch. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. Kody's tendency to dismiss his son's perspectives is honestly baffling, especially when you consider that Hunter, his son, is earning a master's in nursing at Johns Hopkins. Meanwhile, Kody's busy lecturing his kids about not following social distancing rules to his exact specifications. Like, seriously? If my son had a background in medical expertise, I'd be taking notes from him, not criticizing his ability to take coronavirus precautions. But here Kody is, acting like he's the public health expert, completely disregarding the fact that his son is literally training in the field. It just makes him look ridiculous. And let's be real, the reason Kody doesn't listen to his kids is simple. Accepting their opinions means he might have to take responsibility for his own actions, and we all know that's never happening. Kody is quick to blame anyone and everyone, whether it's his ex-wives or Robyn, but never himself. Accountability? Not on his radar. To make things even more absurd, Hunter, a nursing expert from Johns Hopkins, is getting lectured on public health by the guy who never even got vaccinated for coronavirus. The irony is just too much. This whole situation reminds me a lot of a sibling I have with diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. Don't know if Kody fully fits the clinical definition, but the behavior is pretty similar. He's an expert on everything, and everyone else's expertise only matters if it aligns with his worldview. If his kids challenge him, they're out. We see that with his children growing up and forming their own opinions, like during the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, Robyn's kids are still towing the line, following Kody's rules to the letter. It's like a weird power dynamic where his kids are supposed to follow him blindly, but when they don't, they get shut out. Kids in confessionals are very telling. Kids in confessionals say a lot about their parents. I've been rewatching the seasons, and the contrast between the kids of Janelle, Meri, and Christine versus Robyn is pretty striking. It's all in the body language, tone, and the way Robyn's kids carefully word their interviews. It honestly feels like you can almost see Robyn standing behind the camera, shooting them that disapproving look as they speak. Meanwhile, the other kids, Christine's, Janelle's, and Meri's, show a mix of emotions, honesty, and vulnerability. Take Robyn's kids, for example. They're always sitting stiff and tense, their hands wringing together as if they're trying to keep it all together. Every emotion is matched with a perfectly predictable, almost textbook reaction. Sad? They look down and frown. Happy? They're jumping around. You can almost predict the script. There's one interview where Saul is describing Eri. He lists 4 things about her, then pauses and says, "I forgot the other one." Not that he can't think of another adjective, but that he forgot. Come on, clearly someone gave him that line. And who else but Robyn herself? Now, I do think Christine's kids are so outspoken because both of their parents are, and Christine definitely encouraged the trait in them. With Janelle's kids, you can tell that the ones who do interviews lean toward logic and facts, and only show emotion when it's been thoroughly broken down and analyzed. Robyn's kids, though, everything they say feels scripted, and it's not hard to see why. Well, except for Dayton, who I suspect left the show because he didn't want to stick to the script. Lately, I find myself skipping all of Christine's scenes, especially the ones with the wedding planning. It's just too much. I get that she's genuinely happy and in love, but her emotions feel so exaggerated, like they're being cranked up for the cameras. I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? Sure, Kody and Robyn are much worse. They're clearly playing to the cameras and trying to manipulate their storyline, but somehow it feels a little more authentic in a really awful way. Maybe it's because we can see right through them. It's almost like they have to put on a show to make themselves look better, while Christine doesn't need to. Viewers just want to see her genuinely happy and moving on, not turning every moment into a performance. Honestly, her scenes remind me of the early years of Sister Wives when they first moved to Vegas. You can tell they've probably told Christine to provide some content to keep the show going, and this is what she's come up with. It just feels flat. Do I just put the bill on the counter? Really? I've watched this clip a few times, and it raises a very important question. Didn't you just claim that you're used to handling your own money? Then in the same season, you say that you're careful about where you spend it. Interesting. Let's break this down, shall we? In that early episode with the bill on the counter moment, the family was all pooling their money into a shared account. Kody would then distribute each wife's portion from there. Anything that went beyond their basic household needs had to be submitted to Kody for extra approval and payments. That's the system, according to Janelle and Christine this season. Makes sense, right? Now, here's the thing. Robyn was getting paid the same as the other wives, even though she only had one child while some of the others had 6. So why would Robyn suddenly need to put a bill on the counter? In theory, she should have been able to cover her bills with her monthly allowance from Kody. But no, this is Robyn we're talking about. Fast forward to the wives leaving, and suddenly, payments aren't going into the family fund anymore. So Kody isn't covering her bills or giving her money for expenses anymore, which explains how she managed to go on a trip to Hawaii with Kody and her kids, using her grocery money. That's a major flex, considering the family fund used to cover all her extra expenses without any questions. Now, Robyn wants us to believe she's just super financially savvy. Oh, she's savvy all right, if by savvy you mean swindling an entire family without a second thought. Bravo, Robyn. Truly. And then there's this. How does she not know how the billing system works? If bills were part of her monthly allowance from Kody, you'd think she'd have been briefed on that. Maybe she didn't get the memo, like how the bills were being paid. Was Kody tallying them up and handing out cash, or did they just write one big check for all their electric bills? But honestly, if you're living with someone and combining expenses, wouldn't you, I don't know, have discussed that by now? By the time she moved into the first rental, Kody was already paying for her and her family's bills before they were even married. So how is she so clueless about how things work? Unless she wasn't the one writing the checks or paying online bills in the first place, which, knowing Robyn, is probably the case. Kody's handling of the Flagstaff move is absolutely infuriating. I know this has probably been discussed a million times already, but I just got to the episode where they actually make the move. Season 12, Episode 2, and it's honestly wild. Kody's sitting there, telling all his wives how financially screwed they are because of his choices, but not once does he take responsibility. Not a single ounce of accountability. What blows my mind is how 4 perfectly capable, rational women let this one guy make such a disastrous decision that completely derailed their lives. all for some ridiculous dream of his. They've always called Kody the patriarch and decision maker, but the only decisions he really makes are to control what his daughters wear, enforce weird chastity rules for his kids, and do impulsive, thoughtless things like moving the whole family to a new state with no plan or even a place to live. Seriously, it's like he's a dictator who has no clue what he's doing, rather than a responsible head of the family. And then, Kody's explanation for all of this mess. He says, "Let's move away from our kids before they leave us, and I'm not putting my life on hold for my kids." What a joke! He literally admits that he's doing this for his own benefit, not for the family he pretends to love so much. How can you trust someone who says that? Behind the scenes, it's like a whole other world. The wives are all secretly scheming to get Kody on board with their own version of the move, each trying to spin it their way. "Janelle, we'll live in the place of our dreams. Mountains, hiking, forests. We can camp and enjoy the outdoors. Help me sell this to the others." "Meri, we can rekindle our relationship. Vegas has been bad for us. It's put me in such a bad headspace. Moving will help you with your Lularo business, and we'll feel like newlyweds again. Help me convince the others." "Christine, Vegas is making me angry. It's unsafe. There was that shooting at a concert. What if our kids were there? The city is changing. We need a fresh start, a new beginning. Let's go where we can reconnect with Heavenly Father. Help me convince the others." "Robyn, yes, Mrs. Brown. I'll do whatever you want, Mrs. Brown. Oh, Dayton got into Flagstaff? That's in Texas, right? Oh, Arizona. Okay, we'll move there. I'll make sure it happens. I'll just tell everyone at the last minute so they don't have time to object. I'll handle it, don't worry. Help me convince the others. You don't know anything." And let's not forget the part where Kody also plans to dip into Janelle, Meri, and Christine's money to buy a ridiculously huge house with, what, like 65 bedrooms? Oh, and he decides to buy the random parcel of land next to it for no reason at all, just some open acreage. But don't worry, they never actually address it on the show. It's just a mess, and Kody's at the center of it, completely oblivious to the wreckage he's caused while pretending he's making the best decisions for the family. What's your biggest pet peeve watching the show? With it being on for so long, I'm sure everyone's got their gripes. I'm guessing Robyn crying is probably a fan favorite in the complaint department. For me, though, it's Kody, specifically when he laughs off his Dutch bag behavior with some smug "well, I'm a guy" excuse, as if that somehow makes it okay. Then there's the endless loop of family photos. Seriously, we see the same damn wedding pictures over and over and over again. It's like they have no other memories. And don't get me started on Christine repeating herself. It's constant. I can't believe she said that. I can't believe she did that. Newsflash, Christine. Once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. But the ultimate pet peeve, everything about Mike Kelty. And I mean everything. It was honestly refreshing to watch Meri's friends finally say out loud what we've all been thinking about Kody&Robyn. They didn't sugarcoat anything, just brutally honest, no holds barred. It was like a breath of fresh air. Meri's probably been hearing the same critiques from her friends for 6 or 7 years, but she stuck around anyway. Sure, it's sad, but at this point, she really only has herself to blame. If you're going months on end without talking or seeing each other, that's not a relationship. I could maybe buy the "we're working on it" excuse for a year or two, but after 5, 6, or even 7 years of total emotional nothingness. Yeah, Meri, you should have walked away when you were 45. Oh, crime bros, what a master of deception. She called Meri, Janelle, and Christine her sister wives in her confessional, and then claimed she doesn't hear from Christine. Newsflash, you don't have any sister wives left. Meri is the only one who might still acknowledge her existence, and that's only because she's clinging to the last thread of a legal divorce and spiritual release. Now onto this sacred loneliness talk. I've seen so many posts about this, and shout out to those who actually cited where it came from. But when they were discussing it on the show, something didn't sit right with me. Then it hit me, didn't it, Kody, at some point? Say, maybe more than once. You should never experience loneliness. I distinctly remember hearing that early on in the show, and I thought, that's a bizarre statement. Sure, loneliness isn't fun, but neither is sadness, grief, or anger. These are parts of life, whether we like it or not, but we all know Kody loves to rewrite history. What he's really saying is, loneliness is fine for you, but not for me. I'm just observing here, but I truly think, along with his dwindling fortune and the potential loss of his show, Kody is terrified of loneliness, probably to an unhealthy degree. He seems to confuse loneliness with nobody paying attention to him. Rewatching the early seasons of the show, especially around the time the MSWC, My Sister Wife's Closet, business was starting up, has been an eye-opener. For those of us paying attention, remember the jeweler they tried to partner with? Yeah, that guy took one look at them and was out of there faster than a speeding ticket. But anyway, what really stands out is how much emphasis was placed on the family's faith in the early seasons, especially in season 4. They were so into pushing their moral high ground back then. No alcohol, no swearing. Kody himself made a big deal about not drinking when he went to a bar with his brothers. And let's not forget Christine calling out Logan for dropping an F-bomb in the confessional. Classic. Fast forward 10 years, and what do we get? The parents are swearing like sailors and knocking back drinks like they're in a college bar. So here's the real question. Were they secretly living it up all along, just pretending to be saints for the cameras? Or did they genuinely give up the faith and then just start doing all the things they once condemned? Wow, kids and their moms and their NLM schemes. What a combination. I'm genuinely shocked that there are so many kids out there who are still managing to keep their heads on straight, yet haven't stepped in to tell their moms just how messed up this whole multi-level marketing hustle is. Like, not one of them has sat down with Christine and said, hey, maybe selling this stuff is a little predatory. Seriously, they're all in it, and of course it works for them because they're at the top of the pyramid. But still, it's a little surprising no one has raised an eyebrow. Now, don't get me wrong, I hate MLMs as much as the next person, but 2 of the kids I thought would be the first to speak up are actually the ones in the game themselves. Maddie and Mykelti. These 2 give off the I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but also contribute vibe, so it's no shock that they got pulled into this mess. They probably got their foot in the door and managed to get some solid downlines under their moms. If anyone's tried to say something to them, it was probably met with a "but look at the money we're making" argument, which yeah, is probably true. But here's the thing. Most of the kids know it's a bad idea to tell their mom or sister to stop because, let's face it, they're not going to turn down the cash when they're fighting other battles, like Christine with child support or Janelle and Meri, who are dealing with their own financial stuff. And let's not forget Meri, she's out there pretty much on her own. If she were to leave the NLM, she could risk losing the little support network she has left from the family. In Season 6, Episode 19 of Sister Wives, the family is preparing for their big celebration when suddenly, their precious canvas with the family mission statement comes crashing to the floor. The adults are sitting there, doing their talking head interviews, and Christine, with her usual sarcastic flair, looks directly at Kody and asks, I'm hoping that's not poetic or anything, but is that indicative of the future? Is it? At the time, it probably seemed like a lighthearted joke, but watching it back gave me chills. The way she said it, her body turned toward Kody, felt like a warning. It was almost as if she was asking, are we actually going to fix this marriage, or is that too much to ask? As for the mission statement itself, complete fluff. It didn't change anything in the family dynamic. It was vague, open to interpretation, basically a bunch of feel-good words strung together. In contrast, the Darger family, the ones who inspired the Browns to write their own mission statement, took the task seriously with a detailed approach to parenting and daily life, backed by research and books. Meanwhile, the Browns threw together a mission statement that was more about sentiment than substance. This whole episode was a mess, and Kody doesn't come off looking great. He made passive-aggressive comments about how his wives looked in their dresses, yelled at the kids for seemingly no reason, and even screamed in front of the photographer. It was clear that he was checked out for most of the planning. Meanwhile, the wives were visibly stressed, especially Meri, who was doing all the food prep with the help of her sister and mom. It was chaos. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.